Hi everyone, this is Sharon. I am here today to share with you my latest project for the Graphics Fairy. When I started this journal, I really had in mind that I wanted a spring theme. And so I looked through some of the bundles on the premium membership site, and I found this one called Sage Meadows. And I just love the impression it gave with the birds and the blooms and flowers and some pretty wallpaper in there. So there are three main bundles that I used for this journal. As I mentioned, this one, Sage Meadow. I used quite a few of those images. And then in the printables for this kit, there's one printable called the ticket journal tags. And I use these two ticket images and resize them in different sizes to make a couple of tags in the journal. And then the second kit that I used quite a bit in this journal as well is called Provence. And there is an image of a book cover, and I use that for the cover of my journal. And then I use pretty much almost all of the rest of these images at one point or another in the journal. And I also use some of the printables, and I'll show those when I get them to you, some of the journal page printables from this kit. And then the last bundle that I used is called Alpine Life. And here again, just some really nice countryside, sort of springtime feeling images in there. And so I picked some of those out as well. Now going into the journal itself, I made this from a hardcover book, and I cinched it up and closed it with this really pretty kind of a purpley blue sari silk ribbon. And then as you can see, this is the image from the Provence bundle, and I just love that. It's just a very muted kind of a purple with some sage in there, and then it's got this creamy kind of a beigey pink background. And what I did along this side is I attached, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a piece of the spine from this book that came loose. And it just gives it a little bit of texture, maybe a little bit of grunge, just kind of makes it, gives it a little bit more of a real book look to it. So I adhered that and used a couple of layers of matte gel medium to adhere it and to seal it in. And then I also embellished with a little bit of lace on there. And I love the color of this book. It's kind of a sagey gray-green color. The journal has 5 signatures, and as we head inside, for the inside of my book covers, I didn't want to use pattern because I already have pattern in my spine fabric and on this first page. So I took a couple of images from, I think it's called Antique Title Pages, one of the bundles, and I will list all the bundles I use because as typical I use about 8 to 10 in total, pulling different things from different bundles. So if we just take a look at the inside last page, there's another one of those images on there as well. I use this really pretty kind of a floral tapestry fabric for my spine. And then as we go into the journal itself, this page is from that Alpine kit. I really like the flowers and things on there. And then I clipped onto that page this little journaling spot where I did some stenciling and have a little linen pocket with this little tea card in there. I also used some pages from a guidebook that I have to the Lake District. And there's also some maps in here from there as well. Here I created a fabric flip and added some lace trim to the top, and then just some beads and string on the bottom. And then underneath there, I usually like to put a little bit of a surprise underneath my fabric flip, so I've got a stamp of this lady under there. On this side, I created a top-loading pocket, embellished that with a couple of tags. And then in there, this is one of those ticket tags I was talking about, one of the printables. And I just made that into this tag with some fabric for the tab. And that's the back. And then this is a page from, it's called a DMC book, and it's a book of different embroidery samples. It's in French, and you have to feel the page to understand how buttery soft these pages are. They're really nice. So I tucked several of those in this journal. Here in the center, I added a doily with this butterfly image on there and some coffee-dyed paper. On this side, I've got this image of a scripty letter and then just some place to journal on the back side. Over here, I took a couple of these little labels and I just attached them at the top and the bottom so they kind of become little like tuck spots, and it holds in this map of Switzerland that came from the Alpine bundle. I just wax that up a little bit. Here I created this little flip out thing from this is an antique music sheet cover. And then in there I created a couple of pockets. I've got these wallpaper images, and then in there I've got these small little journaling cards. This one. And then underneath there I tucked another one of these ticket journaling cards. And then on the back I just embellished a little bit and added a piece of paper for writing. Here I took one of the bird images from one of the bundles and printed it right on this antique ledger paper. I really love how that turned out. On this side I used some old linen for the corner pocket, and in there I made a couple of cards with these lovely ladies, and then I backed those with some embossed paper. Here's another page from that Lake District guidebook. And on this coffee dyed piece of paper, I just did a little bit of stenciling with some acrylic paint. And I love that creamy white on the coffee dyed paper. Here I created a side tuck with this image. And in there, I made a couple of journaling spots. Again, I've got this scripty letter and this printable. Just did a little stamping on the back of that one. This is a page from a small field guidebook that I have. This is one of the printables from the Provence kit, and it wasn't quite high enough for the size page I needed, so I just layered it up with this wallpaper image behind so that it was the right size. In the center of this page, I took these kind of, I think they're mirror images, and I just added those in, did a little stamping on the inside of those, but it still leaves plenty of space to journal over the top of that. And then I've got a couple of little fun metallic looking tags on there. In this pocket, I created a couple of journaling cards with these bookmarks. I guess they're tags. I would call them tags rather than journaling cards. But I embellished the back with some paper doilies and some fabric tabs on the top. Here I created a side tuck with this lady. And then I've got an embellished, this is an antique playing card. It's a deck I got from the UK, dated late 1800s. And I just did a little decoupaging with some tissue paper and a napkin on this side. Here I did some stenciling with paste. And then on this side I created a pocket, and in there I've got this tag. And then this is just a page from a vintage magazine. Some people dancing. On this page I tucked in this image. I love this one. I use it in a number of my journals. It's a sheet with the birthstones on it. And then I just did a little stenciling on the back, but still can be used to write over the top. And I stenciled this nice little chandelier here. And then what I used for the tuck was one of the images. It's like a toile image. And I just ran it across both pages so that I could tuck on both sides. And then in the center, I just have this page from a furniture book. And I embellished that a little bit with some stamping and this wax seal. And then on the strings, I've got a couple of little charms, some vintage jewelry. And then on this side, in this pocket, I've got this rather large journaling card. And just have this little belly band with this card in there. On this page, I clipped in a journaling spot with this pretty bird image. And then in there, I've got some embossed coffee dyed paper. And then I just stitched in some extra sheets for journaling. Here's another one of those pages of the people dancing from that vintage magazine. And then on this side, I've got this antique postcard from France. Some pretty writing on it. Oh, not France. I thought it was France, but it looks like Belgium. On this page, this is one of the pages from the Provence bundle that I mentioned. It's a lined sheet. And then on there I clipped this sort of a faux cabinet card I made from, now I know this image is from France. It's a photograph. And then I just did some layering with wallpaper image. And then this is from one of the ancestral photograph bundles, this frame. And then on the back side, I also use this from one of the bundles. Here I created a tuck with this pretty little girl image. And then in there I've got another antique postcard. Some pretty writing again. This is from a butterfly field guide book that I have. Then here I took a vintage envelope and slit it open to create some journal pages. But then I created an extra pocket on the inside of that. And in there I slipped the original letter from that envelope. And just embellished it a little bit with some stamping along the edge. Here's a piece of homemade paper that I waxed. It just gives it a really nice thick texture. That makes it a little bit translucent. On this side I did some stenciling. And then here I've got another one of those antique music pages. And I created a pocket here and put this little, it's kind of like a postcard sort of thing that turns into a letter. It's just got some beautiful handwriting on there, and that's dated 1919. Here's the inside, that pretty image. And then I just added a couple of stamps on there, on the strings. Then on this side, on this pocket, I tucked in an antique French seed packet. I found one little seed at the bottom of it, and I was going to try to see if I could grow it. Maybe I could grow some of these. Here's the other side of that vintage envelope, and I created, again, a tuck spot on there. And then I've got this journaling card. This is one I made from one of the Tag Team Friday projects I made for the Graphics Fairy. And on the back, there's a pocket with a journaling card in there. Here I have this image of this little boy, so cute. And then I just tucked this tag where I did a bunch of layering with some fabrics and papers. That's the back. And then for some of the pages, I've used these images of like library checkout sheets or cards. I've got a couple of those in here. And then on this side, I've got this piece of handmade paper as a corner tuck, and just embellished that with some old lace and piece of cheesecloth on the top. Here again, I printed another one of those bird images onto some ledger paper. And then on this side of the page, I have this beautiful piece of linen. And in there, this is one of the pages from the Provence bundle again. It's one of the printables, and I just love the colors in there. And then in there, I tucked this kind of a faux document keeper. I don't know. You see these with the old brads on them on the top, and I just put in a couple layers of like a tissue onion skin invoice, and then a plain one. And then for the back, I used another one of these pages from that embroidery catalog. And recently, I got a whole bag of these old vintage brass brads. And I've been wanting to put them on everything since I got those. This is a page from a floral book that I have. And in this pocket, I've got a couple of pieces of vintage ephemera. And then this is a page from a French school workbook. I love the blues in there. And I've got this little cluster on the top made with a piece of wool and some cotton fabric and lace. And then in the center here, I've got this envelope. And this is made from a page of that English Lake District guidebook. And what I did was I took the page and folded it over, and then I made a flap for the envelope, stitched that on. And then I've got a little tab here to keep it closed. And I will tuck something in that envelope before I send this journal out. And then it's just lined with some floral paper on the inside. Here I just stitched a little square of some cotton fabric. And then in this pocket, again, I have some ephemera, an old postcard that I just altered a little bit, and receipt. Here again, I used a piece of embroidery for the corner tuck. And then in there, I made this journaling card. And I used, I've got this like vellum layer on top with this pretty frame image. And then under there, I've got a book page with this bunny image on it. Then I just embellished with some lace and a button, punched the bottom. And then on the back side, I've got some embossed paper. And I used this toile image again, just used a couple sections of that to embellish. And then I've got a wax seal on there. This page was quite brittle on the edge, so I did take some Florentine paper and just reinforce that on the edge. And that brings us to the back side. So I hope you enjoyed that journal. I hope it inspired a little bit of springtime magic for you. I really appreciate you coming along with me today. And until next time, bye-bye.